good day everybody, and welcome to Jamie's Journeys. And today we're actually just outside of Cape Town, South Africa, and we're spending a day in a beautiful wine country. And we have a personal guide, our good friend Daniel and Jamie Silke, the political analyst who does so much wonderful speaking for Regent Seven Seas. And Daniel, this is gorgeous where we are.
Well, I thought I'd bring you out to one of our prize attractions in Cape Town, Jamie, and this is what visitors come all over the world to see. They come to see the splendor of the Cape Wine Route, as it's called, and there are all sorts of different areas. We could be traveling for weeks in this area, and you wouldn't even make inroads into any of these areas.
Really?
There are 8 or 9 different wine regions in the entire area in and around Cape Town. So we're in the premier one called the Stellenbosch Wine Route. And the views are magnificent, the restaurants are wonderful, and naturally the wines are even better. So not quite sure what it will be like by the end of the day, Jamie, but so far it's early in the day.
I'm glad I'm not driving. Anyway, we're at this beautiful winery. I see the building. I know we got a shot of it, built in 1814. Where are we right now?
We are just on the outskirts of the town of Stellenbosch, which is the oldest town other than Cape Town. So the next town that was established in South Africa is the town of Stellenbosch. It's a university town and of course the center of the wine growing industry. So the town is built around academia and liquor for that matter, and it's a huge agricultural exporting and growing area as well. We grow here and we export masses of all sorts of vegetable plants and of course strawberries. It's the strawberry center of South Africa as well. And my family are the largest strawberry exporters in South Africa, and they are located here. So it's an area that I'm very familiar with. I grew up in and around this area as well and know it quite well.
Well, hopefully we can get a shot of the big strawberry.
There are quite a few big strawberries around, so if we're still standing straight by the end of the day, we'll take you past the strawberry.
Yeah. Now this particular winery, where are we now?
This one is called Neertlingshof, which is really it would mean the court or the house of the Neertling family, one of the old historic families who originally settled here. And as all of you know, wine was brought to the Cape, the art of wine viticulture by the French. During the early part of the 1700s and into the 1800s, the Dutch in particular and the French offshoot and the Huguenots and the various immigrant groups built these marvelous wineries, established the wineries here, and used a specific form of architecture, the Cape Dutch architecture, which you will see dotted around this area. Beautiful white facades, thatched roofs, gables in between, and it's very characteristic and actually unique, the architecture, to South Africa in particular. So it's one of the features as well. Culturally, it's an architectural feature of our area, and against the blue sky and the sun, it all makes for a beautiful visit.
Yeah. Now when the settlers first came here, they realized it as a great region to grow wine, is that right?
Yeah,
one of the first things they did, they plant?
It was almost one of the first things they did, because the Dutch knew originally that this would be a really good climate to grow fresh fruit and vegetables for their ships that were coming around the southern point of Africa. So within about 30 years from the first arrival of the Dutch settlers, wine became a staple of the region as a result of the fantastic climate. I think they weren't quite sure what they were getting into when they came here. And then really they saw that everything just grew so well and they were able to produce beautiful vineyards that wine became a natural ally of the sailors going around Africa.
Yeah, and I'd say it probably still is on our ship today.
Yes, you've got beautiful wine, but I think the South African variety does compete very, very well as well. And we export now widely across the world. You can get South African wine now in most liquor stores everywhere.
But I was meaning on the ship.
On the ship, yes, on the ship it is a staple. It is a staple, and I've had some great wines in the last 2 weeks. I get quite jealous of some of the lovely wines. And in particular the Californian wines, which I enjoy very much. So some South Africans think their wine is the best, and when you're on the ship and you enjoy Californian wines and Argentinian wines and all the rest, then we compete well, is all I'll say.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to our next spot, wherever that's going to be.
Wine, I think.
One thing I thought I'd mention, we wanted to respect the couple's privacy, but there was a wedding that had just taken place, so we didn't film it, but it took place right here. And what was interesting to me, if you know, kind of our thinking isn't how South Africa used to be. It was a mixed race marriage.
Yeah, there are mixed race. I mean, mixed race marriages are now legalized in South Africa, along with all sorts of other aspects of integration. So there's no separation or policies of separation anymore, and it's become quite natural. It's just another day at the office, so to speak, in South Africa. Now this would have been frowned upon 15 years ago. It would have been outlawed. If a couple wanted to get married, they probably would have had to have done it outside of South Africa for that matter. So it is a relatively new feature for us. It's not as though there's a huge amount of mixed marriages. It's just a natural part of our society now. So it's good to see it not being an issue within the country.
Yeah. So that was nice to see, and I must admit that both the bride and the groom looked beautiful together.
They did look good together. They did. They did. Well, it's the wedding day, so they should look good together. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Daniel, the grapes almost look ready to pick.
They're just about ready. I think it's an ideal time of the year here because picking is now. January, February is when we take it all out and start to process the wines. It's a great time of the year.
Yeah, and this is just so beautiful here with the mountain range is just spectacular. And it looks like all this entire area is all vineyards, is that right?
This is all vineyards. It really is the heartland of the Western Cape vineyard area. It's Stellenbosch. It's just one of the many regions, but it's as far as the eye can see on either side with the mountain slopes in between. So you have the dramatic backdrop, you've got the vineyards. And this winery is probably a more medium-sized, well-established winery, Bayers Kloof Winery. It leads down from the mountain slopes down to the highways, and on either side probably of the highway is part of this vineyard as well. So it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, well, it's very nice, beautiful. You know, I do have a question about the workers here. You know, in America we rely heavily on migrant workers to farm, but how does it work here?
Yeah, no, we are, specifically here in the Cape, the workers are from the area. They're very much locals who've been here really since day one. So they're very well entrenched in the area. And they've always been a controversy about farm workers and farm laborers. You might have an issue with migrants. In our case, it was an issue with very low wages. Historically, these workers were exploited to a great degree, and very often farmers here would pay their workers not in cash but in liquor. They would give them liquor at the end of the week, Friday afternoon, classic end of the week, give them liquor, and that would be offset against giving them any more money or cash, as it happens. And it led to social disintegration, a high degree of alcoholism, and has been outlawed as a practice now in the new South Africa. But the agricultural unions and labor unions are very vociferous and vocal here, looking after now the interests of farm workers. But it's always a touchy area. Farm workers somehow all over the world, it always becomes an interesting area from a labor issue.
Well, very good. Well, this is a beautiful spot indeed. All right, well, we decided to duck in here on the deck for a nice lunch. Sans wine, even though we're at a winery, that's
I
It's
think
almost
we,
sinful, isn't it?
I think it is. I don't think you should be allowed back in the Cape if we don't have a glass of wine later on,
I
Jamie.
know. But anyway, you know, you are a person that I know with your globalization talks, when you go into malls, which I tease you about, all over the world, you do like to see what types of products are selling and where they're from. And I know when Dana and I were here and went around with you the first time, we had some good times in supermarkets and we bought quite a bit of stuff.
I'm pleased, Jamie, that you acknowledge that you can have a good time in a supermarket. And I actually believe that you can. Supermarkets are not all drudgery. You can have great fun in a supermarket looking at brands and products. And there are a couple of good ones here. We just happen to be sitting here and we've got them in front of us. Well, a couple of my favorites.
Can we start with this because this is near and dear to my heart.
We've got this bottle of chutney, and we do a very, very good chutney in South Africa, Jamie. It's a fruit chutney. And this particular brand, Mrs. Ball's Chutney, is probably one of the most famous brands to come out of South Africa. It's a sweet, thick, delicious condiment that's just added to just about any food. You can really have it with meat, fish, chicken. Even I have it a sandwich with cheese. Mrs. Ball's Chutney is one of them. It comes in a variety of flavors. I have no shares in this business, I must tell you, but I've eaten much of the stuff. It's just great.
Now, I love the ones that we got. The only one that I didn't really do much for me was the tomato one. But this one was...
there is a peach variety, there's the original, there's a spicy variety, there's a light variety as well, and there's the tomato one, which we won't talk about.
Yes. Now, we did make the decision we were not going to have wine today. So instead, we got a grape spritzer?
Grape tizer.
Grape tizer. And apple tizer. What are these?
Yeah. Well, these are also two homegrown South African sodas, soft drinks. We call them cool drinks in South Africa. So if you order a soda in South Africa, just make sure you order a cool drink, not a soda. And this is a great product. It's apple juice, pure natural apple juice, carbonated. And it's a particularly crisp, fresh taste. In fact, they originally marketed this as the champagne of fruit juices, they called it. The company was started here just outside Cape Town in the apple growing area of the country. A huge success, not only in South Africa, now in Europe, in South America. I've seen it as well. We saw it in Brazil, for that matter. And you'll find it everywhere. It comes in an apple variety, a grape variety, and the newly introduced pear tizer variety as well. So you can't get tired of this stuff.
Now, you were saying that this was bought out by Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola bought this out.
And you happen to know someone who was involved in this?
Yeah, I remember the original founder of this was an Italian gentleman who came out to the Cape and farmed apples and produced from the apples. He was a great apple farmer in the Elgin apple farming district, which honestly is about an hour drive just across the mountainside that way from us right now. And he then developed this drink, the original recipe, and this recipe hasn't changed probably for as long as I can remember. So I think I must have met him when I was about 10 years old, and the brand has been going as a strong brand worldwide now for the last 30 to 40 years. So it's a great success.
Anything on the menu that is a little different than what I might be used to back in the States?
Yes, I think the prices are what would be different, Jamie. I want to show you what good value is in South Africa, especially in dollar terms.
This one's good.
That's the special. Well, that's it in Afrikaans, actually, but I suppose that's it in English.
You could read that.
No, we could read it now. We could, for 50 Rand, which is about $7 US, you get a lamb burger and 2 small bottles of wine that you can take home or drink here if you so wish. So for 2 bottles of small wine, lamb burger, $7 US. That's great value.
And it's called a pinotage burger, so I think it's going to be seasoned with the red wine. The pinotage is
I think everything here is called pinotage. It's the main red cultivar or varietal grape here in the Cape. It's unique to this particular district, and pinotage is something you should try when you're in South Africa. We're well known for this particular cultivar. It's really a good, it's a good heavy red wine to have with meats usually.
Now you're also talking about how it is written in Afrikaans here and English here. We have a lovely waitress who she was actually very coy when we first came up and we're speaking to her in English. Then all of a sudden you started speaking to her in Afrikaans, and she beamed and laughed and
she came to life. It's unusual in most cases in South Africa, especially here in the Cape. Most people, especially in the service industry, speak equally English and Afrikaans, and there isn't really an issue with the language. But in our waitress's case, she was much more relaxed to speak her home language, which would have been Afrikaans. So as soon as I spoke a few words to her, she opened up and lightened up, and there she is, and she's great, and she's getting very familiar now with me.
You can tell she likes you too.
So it just shows that if you speak the local language, it really does help, and it just helps to make yourself understood.
Yeah, I should have brushed up on my Afrikaans.
Yes.
Is it Afrikanese?
Afrikaans. Afrikanese is a cross between Afrikaans and Chinese, Jamie. It's Afrikaans. And I'll teach you a few words as we... A couple of Afrikaans words here on the menu, in fact, in front of us.
Now, there was one item here, too, that was like a... What was that?
Yeah, this one, the biltong. The biltong and grape salad. And biltong is our equivalent of the jerky, the dried meat, beef jerky, or whatever kind of jerky you get in the US. It's a staple diet here, certainly in South Africa. Every South African loves biltong. You can get it in all the different varieties of animal. Ostrich biltong, kudu biltong, beef biltong, you name it. There's a wide variety. And it's often as a starter or an appetizer on a menu as a part of a salad. So it'll be cut up or diced into a salad.
Yeah. I know our meal's about to arrive, we hope. But before we close this session out, this place that we're at now, this winery, completely different feel than the first one we went to. The first one seemed to be very traditional, colonial. Almost. It wouldn't really be colonial. It would be
not really colonial. I suppose the difference is that this is a smaller winery. It's not as tourist oriented. There are wineries that have clearly developed facilities specifically for large bus groups, for large tours, and large tours are encouraged to come to those wineries. And then there's another whole ranking of wineries that are smaller, perhaps more personable to a degree, where you can relax a little bit more in a more convivial surrounding. So I suppose this would be an example, and they're actually two good contrasts of wineries.
Yeah, I would describe this almost being hip or trendy, from all the decor inside to the menus.
They've become trendy. A lot of people. Yeah, these wineries have become trendy. They've become fashionable. There are 50, 60 wine farms in the area. Each of these wine estates have got restaurants. Each of them have got newly renovated restaurants. With new decor, chic, as you can see, very chic and stylish inside. So it's part of the upgrading of the whole area and the wine industry being internationalized, and the wines are being exported, money's coming in, tourists are coming in, so it all uplifts the local community.
Okay. Well, how do you say cheers in Afrikaans?
We would say in Afrikaans, we would say to good health. The translation in English would be to your good health, which would be gezondheid. Gezondheid. So it would be to good health. So gezondheid.
Very nice indeed, and beautiful. Again, a beautiful, huge burger.
I haven't had enough to eat on the ship, Jamie. You haven't fed me for the last couple of weeks.
It's 2 small bottles of wine that haven't come yet.
They promised, but I hope they'll come.
Yeah, but that's $7. Yours is like $4, $5. And at 7 point something, 0.1 to the dollar, it's very good, but it's not what it was when we first came here in 2002, was it?
Well,
2001?
Yeah.
Seven Seas Navigator, I think it was 12 to 1.
It was 12 to 1 at one point, which was great for you, but terrible for us. So when we traveled, we had to multiply by 12.
Yeah.
So imagine multiplying all US prices by 12. So now, I mean, we're back to a reasonable currency valuation, 7 to 1. It's still reasonable from a US dollar perspective. And it's made it a bit easier for us to travel and to spend outside of South Africa.
I remember you showed Dana and I, we looked at properties for fun, and this was, of course, back when it was 12 to 1, but it was a 3-bedroom penthouse apartment right overlooking the most beautiful, pristine beach.
Yeah.
You got a health club, fantastic health club, which came with it, and it was like $70,000.
And I can tell you, you could have bought that at 12 to 1, and other than the appreciation of the property itself, the currency has appreciated to 7 to 1. So you would have made double cash on that investment. So, Jamie, you're going to have to do something because you missed out on that one.
Another opportunity missed. Let's eat.
Ah, marvelous.
Well, we're starting to make our way back towards the ship, but we've stopped in this just charming town, and that is
Stellenbosch.
Stellenbosch, and a university town, isn't it?
It's a university town. It's one of the South Africa's premier universities is located in the city. It's an Afrikaans language medium university. Some of the lectures are in English and in Afrikaans, but it's predominantly an Afrikaans university, very highly graded and thought after, and rather a beautiful place to study, I think. I think if I had my student days over, I'd be here.
I would too. In fact, I see hardly any men. I only see young ladies around, which is...
South Africa is known for a lot of natural beauty in all respects, and the town certainly is just lovely. The people and the scenery is lovely.
Yeah, but it's full of art galleries and antiquities and great restaurants and social cafes. And
yeah, I think this is the sort of feel, you get the real feel of almost the Cape and South Africa more here than often you do in Cape Town. Cape Town itself is much more cosmopolitan and international. And here you feel you're more in a South African surrounding, but it's the marriage of the traditional and then the new trendy South Africa as well, which is here in Stellenbosch. So it's delightful.
It is a charming place. All right, so we're going to make our way back into Cape Town, and we might stop once or twice, depending on the traffic and the scenery.
Yeah.
And we know it's going to be pretty, but we're not so
it's
sure
always pretty.
about
Always
the
pretty.
traffic.
And that's not pretty.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, we've had quite a day of it, and this is our last leg, right behind Marcel, who is our photographer, videographer. About an hour and a half down the coast is the Cape of Good Hope.
Yep.
And right behind us, maybe about, what, 2 miles?
Yeah.
Back to the ship?
2 or 3 miles, yeah.
And right back here, about a mile, or is it more like that?
Yeah.
That's where the World Cup Stadium is going to be, right?
Yes, further back, just almost also down towards the ship, yeah.
And the World Cup is going to be 2010?
Yes, Cape Town is South Africa is the host country for the 2010 World Cup Finals. It's a big event for the country. It's the second biggest sporting event in the world. There's a lot to do, a lot to build. We've got to build a stadium. We haven't started yet to build a stadium, so it's February 2007, and we've got until for about 2 years, 2.5 years to get this stadium built.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to be very special, but I guess it's going to change a lot of the landscape back there with getting rid of the old cricket stadium, which would probably be okay.
Yeah, the old stadium can do with being demolished, but it's a massive undertaking. It'll transform that whole area almost outside the port, in fact. It's almost adjacent to the waterfront area. So it's all going to change quite dramatically. Some people are objecting to it, others are welcoming it.
Yeah. Well, this is a great spot along here too. Beautiful residences, and I notice you're getting a payback on me now, aren't you?
Yeah, I seem to be a little taller than you,
from the
Jamie.
last shot when
It's
I
quite
was on the upper hand.
At last, I gain a bit of height on you.
Anyway, this is gorgeous here. The rocks, a little bathing tidal pool.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
Just beautiful.
It's a beautiful spot. It's just it's where I grew up, in fact, in this area. So I was lucky to live in the area, and it's become again a fashionable area. It's also gone through various stages. Areas go through poor stages, better stages, and it's on the up again, I'm pleased to say.
Yeah. And I guess I could say right across the ocean, maybe about this direction. Would that be?
You are going, if you're going...
Argentina, maybe?
Yeah, if you're going due west, you would more or less get to Buenos Aires in Argentina, just due west straight across.
Long way.
It's a long way, but you know, not that far for us.
No.
Not that far.
I've actually cruised it once.
Yeah.
9 days
Yeah.
at sea.
Yeah.
It's a long way. But anyway, we loved our journey today, and
it's been
thanks
great.
for showing us
A pleasure to
the
show you
wine
our
country
city.
and your beautiful, beautiful city. Thank you so much. Great
It's
to see
a
you.
pleasure, Jamie. Anytime. Anytime. Come back.
We will. That's
Excellent.
for sure.
That's what I want to hear. Great.
All right. Well, Daniel Silke, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie.
And
Thanks.
to all of our guests, thanks for tuning in to Jamie's Journeys, and glad you were with us. Have a great day.